guys, welcome back. I'm Samcrac. This is the Audi RS7 rebuild project, and today we're gonna get inside the car, we're gonna disassemble the interior, and we're gonna remove all the seatbelts from the car because in the accident they locked up and they need to be repaired. And we're not only gonna do that on the RS7, but we're also gonna remove the seatbelts from the Corvette Grand Sport and my Ford Focus RS. Now, while the way that your system tells the car to lock up the seatbelts is similar in most modern cars, the way that the system is placed is quite a bit different between the three cars I'm going to show you today. As a matter of fact, this Corvette actually tricked me. When I got the car, the seatbelts weren't locked up. Here, I'll show you really quick. You can see when I pull on the seatbelt, it retracts, goes up and down like normal. There's no slack in it, and it operates normal. However, when I went and plugged in my code scanner and attempted to remove the airbag codes, it told me that there was an error in the SRS, or the supplemental restraint system, which is a system that takes care of your seatbelts. And then I figured it out. The safety mechanism in this car is actually located in the buckle. So we're going to start on the Corvette, which requires us to remove the seat out of the car. We'll find that safety mechanism. I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Here are the buckles from our Corvette, and you can actually see where it looks coiled up right here. That's because in the accident, the SRS module sent a signal through this wire to this buckle, blowing an electric charge in here, which actually retracts the buckle downward, making the belt tight against you. There's only one electronic connection per buckle in the Corvette, only 2 seats in a Corvette. So here is our seatbelt safety system in the Corvette, and that's pretty much finished. Now, I've never disassembled the interior of an A7 or RS7, but the way most modern Volkswagen, Audi products work is that you've got your retractor in here, and that's where our safety mechanism lies. And in some cases, there might be an additional safety mechanism in the floor here, which will require us to at least lift our seat up. We might or might not have to remove it. Now, this isn't the same for all cars, but in Audi Volkswagens, you usually disassemble from the top to the bottom, and you really want to be careful with these trim pieces. Not only are they pretty costly at the dealership, you just don't want to mark them up and make them look ugly, because we're obviously going to reuse them. Now, we want to get a good look at all the sides of our trim here. We see that we have a little coat hanger in place. We also have an AC vent in here. Again, we want to make sure we don't damage that stuff. But a lot of times there's little trim pieces. Sometimes they look like this. Sometimes it's a little piece of plastic that says airbag in it. Those will hide hidden screws, and you want to make sure you're not prying with any screws still intact. One last thing before I start to pry away on the RS7, the tools that I highly recommend you do this with. First of all, start off with your fingers. If you can slip your fingers behind the trim and pull gently, they are going to be the most forgiving on your trim pieces. Then there are these. These are plastic pry tools, and I'm going to leave a link in the description box below to the same ones that I bought. And actually, when I bought these, they were really cheap, and they came with like a bunch of fasteners. The probability of you breaking a fastener is likely high, and that's totally okay, because if you just get a bunch of miscellaneous fasteners like the ones that come with these, well, then you got them on standby. You can just slip them back in, punch them back in place, and it's no big deal. You don't have to make any dealership runs. Now, the last thing I will recommend, but you want to use the most sparingly, is a very, very small screwdriver and possibly a pick. I want to use these the least amount as possible, because these are items that will leave marks on your trim pieces. One thing you definitely do not want to do is use steak knives, like my buddy Rich from the channel Rich Rebuilds. I'm actually going to pull away the weather stripping a little bit here, and I'm going to get my tool behind the trim piece and just push out on it. Here, let's do this. These things are in really stiff. I don't want to mess things up, but here, I'm gonna put a little bit of pressure. There's something holding that in. Admittedly, I got stuck trying to remove the first trim piece on the Audi, so I've got my shop manual for an RS7 popped up here. I'm going to look through these and I'm going to find out. It should tell us exactly how to remove the seatbelt, and within that it should tell us how to remove that piece of trim. All right, here's what I was doing wrong. It shows in the diagram that you need to pull out on each edge from the bottom, and they tell you using a wedge tool, which is what we're using, our trim panel removal tools. Then once that's popped out, you could just pull down and it should come out of the headliner. It's as simple as that. I was just prying from all the wrong areas. Now, anytime I get stuck, I like to just refer to this workshop manual. It's really simple. Anything from removing a trim piece or even going and taking your entire engine apart. This is pretty much the same exact guide that the techs use at the Audi dealership whenever they're servicing other customers' cars. And every time I show these manuals in my videos, I get a million emails asking me where I got them. So I'm going to leave the link to the workshop manual site in the description box below. They have workshop manuals for pretty much every single make and model dating back a couple decades ago now, and they're really, really cheap. I think I paid somewhere around 25 bucks for this one here on the Audi, and it covers like all A7 models. Definitely check them out if you're considering working on your car, or if you already do work on your car. This will give you a step-by-step breakdown on every single system and every single component of your car and how to fix, repair, or replace it. All right, round two. Both of these sides should pop out like I was trying to do before, and then it should come out downwards. So we got to just pull inwards from this side like this. There it goes. Perfect. It should just come down from the roof. And there's piece number one. Was actually a lot easier than I thought. You could see our pillar is completely disassembled here. The seatbelt is out. It was really simple. You take this piece of trim out, then you take the lower piece of trim out, then you've got one of these air vents in the way. That comes out with just a few screws, and then a few screws later, we have our seatbelt assembly. These two are our front seatbelts. These two are our rear seatbelts. Now, a little bit of bad news. The body shop that got this car before I did, not the body shop I used, the body shop that did the estimate on repairing this car before it was totaled, cut the rear seatbelts. They likely cut these because what happens when nobody's wearing their seatbelt, it will actually stay tight up against the side of the car. So it's really difficult to pry these things out. But I've done it before. It's just an act of, well, let's say it's time saving or laziness. But I have good news regarding these two. I thought I was going to have to go out and just buy two brand new pieces. My airbags will repair these for me, no problem as well. So we're gonna get all these repaired, including our Corvette seatbelts, but we can't forget our Focus RS. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this Focus RS, when you open the door, check these Recaro seats out with that really awesome blue. There's just blue stitching everywhere. There's that blue stitching on the steering wheel. This car is really, really sharp. I can't wait to drive it. Now, this is the only seatbelt we're gonna have to remove from this car. And this is one of the reasons why I think Fords are some of the best cars to rebuild, but also think that their seatbelt system is superior to all the other ones. You saw on the Audi, I had to remove 4 seatbelts. There were 2 people occupying the car. As far as I know on the Corvette, there was only 1 person in the car in that accident. I also had to take out 2 seatbelts. Right here, This is the car that you guys are familiar with. This car only came with one seat, so I have to assume there's only one person in that car, but both the seatbelts locked up in that car. It's just absolutely incredible that these manufacturers haven't figured out. If there's only one person occupying one seat, why do you gotta lock up 4 other seatbelts? That means then I gotta go and take the time to disassemble that corner, that corner, that corner. In most cases at a body shop, that's several more hours of disassembly that they're gonna charge for. And here I'm gonna prove it to you right now. Check out the passenger side seatbelt. It goes up and down, retracts, no problem. Right there, look, I've got a blown knee airbag in this car. That is the only seatbelt that locked up. Same case on my Fiesta ST here. The knee airbag blew, the only seatbelt to lock up was right here, the driver's side. So kudos to you, Ford, for actually making it easier to repair cars like this, and actually it makes it less likely that a car will get totaled out because, you know, one seatbelt replacement might cost $1,000, but 4, well, do the math, 4 times 1,000, whatever that is. But if you look up here, right here are the words airbag. This trim piece, you wouldn't think anything of it. This pops out, there's a hidden screw behind it. I've already popped it out on the side that we need to work on. And so when we pop this out, that'll get our hidden screw out, and then we'll be able to pry the piece of trim back to go ahead and remove the next piece of trim, remove whatever we need to do in the ground here, and take the seatbelt out. But our last seatbelt is right here, the Ford seatbelt. It's really nice, really clean. My RS only has like 7,000 miles on it, so I'm really planning on this car turning out to be really great, and I plan on using this for my daily driver. So right here, we've got what's called a dual stage seatbelt because it has not only one of those explosive charges here, it also has one in the retractor. So it will lock the retractor up from moving at the same time. You can see again where it's kinked right here, it pulls down the area where this fastens into the ground. So it really keeps you stable in the case of an accident. I just got done boxing up and dropping off the seatbelts to myairbags.com, and I was able to pick up another package while I was at it. Check this thing out. Look at how big this box is. I hope you guys are excited for that. That's coming up very soon. But I want to crunch some of the numbers and tell you about myairbags.com because I've been working with them since the first rebuild I ever did on YouTube, the Audi S3 project. You've heard me mention it a few times now. It's where I send in all my blown seatbelts to get repaired from these accident cars, and by the time I send them in and have them repaired, it's a fraction of the price that it would be if I just went to the dealership and went and bought all new parts, which is what most people think they have to do. One of the things I want your input on is whether or not we should change the color of these seatbelts, which came from the factory in a black color, to red seatbelts. I'm gonna link a poll right here, and you can also let me know in the comment section below. My seatbelts will actually change the color of your seatbelts too, and if you guys overwhelmingly vote yes, I will go ahead and change the color to the seatbelts in this car to red. Now, some of you guys wrote me and said, this is kind of ricer, isn't it? But the truth is the RS7 had a red seatbelt option. It also came with some red stitching in the interior, so it would match a little bit better, but this car does have these big red brakes right here on the front grille badge, also on the door sill when you get in the car. And the steering wheel, the gauge cluster lights up with different various reds. There's also red down here that lights up on the shifter. And yeah, the shifter knob itself has that red RS logo. Now here's how much I stand to save by having my seatbelts repaired instead of replaced. The first car, the Audi RS7, the front seatbelts cost $600 a piece. That's wholesale. Retail, they're even more. And the rears cost $300 a piece for a grand total of $1,800 if I went and just replaced all 4 seatbelts. My Airbags charges $75 each for repair of the seatbelt. That's a single stage, and this Audi seemed to have 4 single stage seatbelts, so that's $300. Now remember, our rear ones were snipped, they were cut, so that's an additional $75 in the back on each seatbelt. It's another $150, so $450 instead of $1,800. I'll take that all day long. Now, if you want to have the color change, of course, they charge a little bit more, but hey, I think it'll be totally worth it if you guys are into it. On the Focus RS, that seatbelt, it wholesales for $250, and that's a dual stage seatbelt. My Airbags charges 99 bucks to replace that, so figure $150 savings on that one. Last on the Corvette, it's just the buckle. Again, that's a single stage repair, so $75 each. I'll spend $150 with my Airbags, but if I bought them at the dealership, well, it would cost me $250, so another $100 savings there. So that's like $1,600 savings for me, most of it being the Audi at $1,350 savings. So if you are going to rebuild a car and want to look for a budget way to replace your seatbelts, especially in a car where all of them lock up, definitely check out myairbags.com, or maybe you just want to get the color of your seatbelt changed. Well, you can hit them up for that too. I'll link them in the description box below, and they tell you right on their website all the parts that they use are OEM or OEM quality, and they use webbing and belts that meet the US safety guidelines and regulations. So I hope that's everything and more that you wanted or didn't want to know about seatbelts. Once we get them back from my seatbelts, we're gonna reinstall them in the car, and I'm gonna show you how I go ahead and shut the SRS light off, or that airbag light off on the dashboard. I do so personally using my own diagnosis tools, but if you don't want to spring for that, they'll also do that for you as well if you send in your SRS module. Guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you're not already following me on Instagram, be sure to head over there and drop a follow, because I'm posting a lot of Audi RS7 stuff before it gets to YouTube. Also, if you have any questions, as always, my contact information is in the description box. Well, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you very soon.